Imagine learning that your legal status in Canada changed overnight, not because of a deliberate action, but because one small detail went unnoticed. For thousands of people this year, that single oversight triggered a removal order and brought their plans in Canada to an abrupt end. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. If you are new here, do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss important updates. The information in today's video may directly affect your stability in Canada, especially if you are here temporarily or planning to apply for permanent residence. Decisions being made right now could shift timelines and expectations for many people relying on temporary status. Before we go any further, you will want to stay with us because later in this video we explain a little-known rule that influences who gets removed first in Canada. It is rarely discussed, yet it has shaped many of the enforcement actions taking place this year. Understanding it could make a meaningful difference in how you manage your status. Let's get started. Canada has reached an important turning point in its immigration system. In 2025, a record 2,831 Indian nationals were removed from the country. This number is the highest ever recorded for this group and reflects a larger shift in how immigration enforcement is being carried out. The rise is not tied to a single event. Instead, it comes from several developments that push the system towards stronger oversight and more consistent enforcement. A major change this year was the significant increase in activity by the Canada Border Services Agency. The agency stated publicly that it intended to raise the number of removals to reduce a long-standing backlog of enforceable removal orders. As a result, individuals who overstayed their visas, failed to renew study or work permits, received final refusals on refugee claims, or were found inadmissible because of misrepresentation became priorities in 2025. The operational plan for 2025 and 2026 signals that this level of enforcement may continue. The agency's plan calls for more removals each year, suggesting that the approach is not temporary, but part of a broader effort to bring order and predictability to a system under pressure. The number of temporary residents in Canada has grown substantially, and the government has faced growing expectations to ensure compliance. Many viewers ask why such a large portion of the removals involved Indian nationals. The answer lies in the size of the population, not in targeted enforcement. Indian nationals make up the largest international student population in Canada and represent one of the largest groups of temporary foreign workers. These workers support industries that face persistent labor shortages, including manufacturing, food production, hospitality, caregiving, and transportation. India has also become a major source of refugee claims and visitor visa applications. When any nationality has such a large presence in the temporary resident system, even a small percentage of non-compliant cases will produce a high total number of removals. Concerns about integrity in the system have also contributed to increased scrutiny. Issues such as fraudulent acceptance letters, unregulated education agents, incomplete applications, and incorrect information have created pressure for stronger oversight. Both Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada and the Canada Border Services Agency responded by tightening their review processes and increasing verification efforts. A substantial factor behind the rise in removals was the long-standing backlog of enforceable removal orders. For years, thousands of cases remained inactive due to appeals, administrative delays, or temporary stays. In 2025, the Canada Border Services Agency undertook a major effort to address this backlog. Many individuals whose cases had been paused for years were contacted, and their removal orders were enforced. Understanding who faces the highest risk under the current enforcement environment is essential for anyone living in Canada temporarily. International students are among the most affected. Students can face removal if they fail to maintain full-time enrollment, change programs without updating Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, withdraw from school, or attend institutions that do not meet compliance requirements. A revised framework for study permits will take effect in 2026, and this framework is intended to strengthen the integrity of the international student system. As a result, non-compliant students could face greater scrutiny. Temporary foreign workers can be at risk if they work for employers not listed on their permits, do not renew their permits after losing a job, or provide inaccurate information during the application process. Canada has increased monitoring of workplaces that rely heavily on temporary foreign labor, particularly in caregiving roles, long-term care homes, industrial factories, transportation companies, and the food service sector. Visitor visa holders also faced enforcement in 2025. Many of the removals involved individuals who stayed in Canada after their status expired. Others worked or studied without authorization. The Immigration and Refugee Protection Act requires visitors to comply with all conditions of their temporary stay. In 2025, the Canada Border Services Agency prioritized overstays as part of its enforcement strategy. Another group affected significantly is failed refugee claimants. After all appeals and reviews have been completed, a negative decision becomes enforceable. India has seen an increase in refugee claims in recent years, and many of these claims reached their final stages in 2025, contributing to the higher number of removals. Several broader factors help explain why this shift occurred. Housing shortages, healthcare pressures, and provincial concerns about the availability of public services all played roles. Provinces including Ontario and British Columbia have raised concerns about rapid growth in temporary resident populations and have asked the federal government for stronger oversight. Public opinion also influenced enforcement trends. Surveys conducted in 2024 and 2025 revealed rising public demand for clear immigration management and stronger compliance measures. The federal government and national agencies responded by emphasizing system integrity and more consistent enforcement. If you are living in Canada temporarily, the most important step you can take is to maintain valid immigration status at all times. Even a brief lapse can result in enforcement. Track your expiration dates carefully and submit renewal applications early. You should also ensure that any work or study activity you undertake is fully authorized. Unauthorized work or study remains a leading cause of removal. When you are unsure, review the official guidance published by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. Documentation is another essential part of protecting your status. Students should keep proof of enrollment, tuition payments, and attendance. Workers should retain pay records, employment contracts, and proof of authorization. These documents may be requested without notice. Avoiding misrepresentation is critical. Even small errors can lead to a ban from entering Canada. You should also follow every condition listed on your permit. Each category of temporary resident has different requirements, and failing to follow them can result in inadmissibility. If you ever receive a removal notice, obtain legal advice immediately. Some decisions can be appealed or delayed, depending on the timing and the specifics of your case. Looking ahead to 2026, several developments may influence enforcement. The Canada Border Services Agency's operational targets suggest that enforcement levels may remain high. The new study permit framework will change how compliance among students is evaluated. The upcoming immigration levels plan places priority on applicants already in Canada, and legislative discussions indicate continued interest in strengthening program integrity. These factors suggest that removal trends may remain elevated if the current environment continues. Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope this information provides clarity on how the system operates. There is a rule that many temporary residents have never heard of, yet it directly affects who gets removed first. It is known as removal priority. This internal rule guides the Canada Border Services Agency in deciding which cases should be handled before others. Several factors influence this ranking, including public safety concerns, criminal inadmissibility, failed refugee cases nearing the final stage, enforceable removal orders involving individuals who can be located easily, and cases where a person remains in Canada with expired or invalid status and without an active application on file. What many people do not realize is how quickly someone can move into a higher risk category. A student who changes programs but forgets to update Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, a worker who changes employers before receiving approval, a visitor who submits an extension incorrectly, or a permanent residence applicant who forgets a required document can all unintentionally trigger a non-compliance flag. Once this happens, the file becomes easier for enforcement officers to act on. A further complication arises when someone attempts to correct their status, but the update has not yet been processed. During that gap, enforcement can still occur. This is why immediate action and close attention to communication from immigration authorities are essential. Canada's record 2,831 deportations of Indian nationals in 2025 reflects several pressures on the immigration system. The rise does not mean any nationality is being targeted. Instead, it shows the impact of increased enforcement, system oversight, and a backlog finally being addressed. If you are a temporary resident, Staying compliant is the best protection you have. Keep your documents updated, follow the conditions of your permit, and never ignore communication from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada or the Canada Border Services Agency. Small details can have major consequences. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and comment below with your questions. We reply to as many as we can. See you in the next video.